So an update on me and Mirtazapine. Hopefully I'm looking better today because I'm feeling better today compared to my last video where I was talking about seeing the new psychiatrist, getting the new prescription, and really not doing well that day. So to recap, the night before making that video, I had taken 7.5 milligrams of Mirtazapine. So that's half of a normal starting dose. And you know, Mirtazapine is a tetracyclic antidepressant and it has very strong effects on the H1 histamine receptor. And you know, if you've taken certain antihistamines, you'll know that they do give you that drowsy kind of effect. And I was expecting, like, you know, maybe I'll sleep a little bit better because I have been having sleeping problems, and that was one of the reasons for choosing this medication. Hit the depression and the sleep problems at the same time. But yeah, no, so I was expecting, oh, I'll sleep a little bit better and then I'll wake up a little bit groggy, but I was not prepared for just how much that affected me. It was really hard to get up in the morning, and then like it was hard to make that video. It was hard to type as well, like my typing was clumsy. But like, so after I made that video, I actually got worse, and I did make an update. Let me find it on the community tab. So if you go to my channel and go to the community tab, you can see this one. And yeah, I'm not taking any more of this stuff, and I explained a bit of that and how I was doing, what's helping my little dog. Yeah, you can go and read that if you want on the community tab. I guess I'll put a link as well, because after a while, if I make more updates and you're watching this, say in a year's time, it might be hard to find this post. So I'll put it in the description somewhere. Yeah, anyway, so things got worse and I just decided I'm not going to take anymore. I think in that video, I might have thought, oh, maybe I'll take a quarter dose instead of the half dose for the second one. But because that day got so much worse and I really struggled to function at all, I was just like, I'm not taking any more of this. I just need to get it out of my system and hopefully tomorrow will be a better day. So the next day was not a better day. I slept pretty well again, despite having spent almost all of my Saturday in bed. Woke up Sunday morning, really hard to get out of bed again, basically the same kind of thing, and just, yeah, it was not good. And I lost my entire day. Like, I had plans and I couldn't do it. I usually do cleaning on Sunday. I couldn't do my cleaning. I've done it today, which is why my carpet looks nice and you know, things are all pushed into the corner, pretending that they're not mess. But yeah, no, I had a really bad day yesterday as well, and I didn't really start to come out of the brain fog until like that period from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is when I really started to feel the fog properly lifting and, you know, getting back some of my energy. Yeah, so that is more than 40 hours after taking that first half dose. That's how long it took for the brain fog to lift. And then this morning I woke up and, you know, still kind of hard to wake up, but not in the same way. It was more of a tiredness thing because I didn't sleep well. I spent almost my whole weekend sleeping, so of course I didn't sleep so well last night with it wearing off. And yeah, waking up, like, it was hard to get out of bed, but not in the same way. And since then, I've been able to function most of the day, and I've only had one nap, and it was only for half an hour. And I think that might have been a bit of a food coma situation. Yeah, no, I've been doing a lot better today, just getting that out of my system. I haven't been doing 100% because I have had dizziness issues, which might be linked to, like, I generally have low blood pressure, and I think it's exacerbating that. So if I stand up too fast, even if I just bend down to, you know, pet my dog or something and then stand up, I've been having a little bit of issues, so it's a bit more than I would normally get from a low blood pressure. But that's been the main thing that's been annoying today. Yeah, anyway, so to cut to the chase, I'm not taking it anymore. It's horrible. And I made a list of side effects just that I've experienced in case anyone's interested. Obviously, like, I'm a specific case. Everyone's biology is different, and I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, so this is what I personally experienced. So obviously the heavy sedation was way too much for me. Like, not like a half the normal dose knocked me out almost for 2 days completely. Yeah, so lethargy, brain fog, feeling like a zombie, some weird feelings, and some of them I can't describe. My limbs felt heavy, I had the dizziness, I had fine motor clumsiness, mainly with the typing. I was actually feeling down, I think because feeling tired it's not a good feeling. And so that exacerbated the mood. I don't think the drug itself caused the mood swing. I think it's the tiredness. I had at some point on both days, the Saturday and Sunday, I had stomach pain. I was getting gassy and a mild nausea. Also, depersonalization was worse on the first day, I think, and derealization. I think I actually had them on both days, derealization. But like, so when I talk about depersonalization and derealization, I get that like without taking this medication, but usually it's kind of mild and it doesn't quite match what other people describe. Whereas on this medication, it was much more like what I've read other people say it's like, at least in some respects, not in every respect, but it was a lot worse than I would normally get. I also had perceptual distortions, especially visual, so I think like my eyesight, or the edge of my eyesight was a bit blurrier, I noticed when I went for a walk. Now, I do wear glasses and my eyesight's not great anyway, but I think being tired exacerbates that. And then there were a few other weird things, like on the first day in particular, when I went for a walk with my dog, which was really, really hard, it was sort of like the saturation had been turned up a little bit on all the colors, and so nothing looked real. It was like, this is artificial somehow. Not like over the top saturation, so it still looked like realistic, but I was just like, this isn't right. It was an odd sensation. I also had poor concentration and apathy, which was really hard. Like, you know, I've been growing tomatoes for my parents. I don't really eat tomatoes. I just like growing them. I like growing stuff. I don't necessarily want to eat it. And yeah, trying to give a shit about possums eating it and also watering them and all that. It was hard to push through that. I think the first night, yeah, Saturday night, Dad had to put the mesh, like I've got mesh to protect it from possums. He had to do that for me. And then he also put a tarp over the top, which was too much, you know. Yeah, but then the next day I managed to get enough energy to water the damn things, but it was so hard. I was like, I don't care, you know, they're tomatoes. I don't want to eat them. But I know, like, you know, what I reason to myself is when this drug wears off, I will care that they're dying, so I might as well water them now. And that's how I got myself to do it, but it was so hard to push through that. So those are the main side effects that I had that I found frustrating. Some of them might not actually be due to the drug. It's hard to know, especially the things to do with stomach pain. I think those stomach pain and being gassy did happen before I ate certain things, but I did on that first day skip lunch and not have it until the afternoon, so hard to say. And then yeah, later eating certain things that I think might have had a bit too much soy, or I don't know. There are a few things that could have caused that, not necessarily the medication, although I have read some people saying it can slow down your tract and cause a few things, so I don't know about that one. But those are just things that happened. I think a good lot of them would be because of the medication. One other thing I experienced is I think I had increased appetite, which is not really a bad thing for me because I'm small and it took me a long time to get to a healthy weight. Not like I didn't do it on purpose, it's just I've always been underweight, and that's why it was really interesting when I got the schizoid diagnosis to see on Wikipedia like more recent studies listed where being underweight is associated with being schizoid, because I never would have picked that. Yeah, so higher appetite is actually not a bad thing for me. I know some people who take this medication don't like the potential for weight gain, but you know, I'm on the low end of healthy, so that's not too bad. But I'm not entirely sure if it was that I was always hungry or if it was that I was on the edge of developing dry mouth, because I had dry mouth when I was taking something previously. I think you know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was on a tricyclic, and dry mouth is a horrible thing, and it's really hard to get rid of it, and so I would, like, suck on lollipops and stuff back then, and so this time I was noticing I was going for the minties a lot more, and I'm not really a sweet tooth kind of person most of the time. It depends a bit on my mood, I guess, but I was going for the minties a lot. So it could have been partially a dry mouth preempting kind of instinct. So yeah, those are all the things I experienced on mirtazapine. Most of them I think were caused by the mirtazapine. Okay, so I had a terrible time, decided not to take any more. After more than 40 hours, the worst of it, which was the sedation related stuff, the worst of it finally lifted, especially the brain fog, my gosh. And like now I can actually think and do stuff, and it's a huge difference. And it made me think about like I've always had problems with antidepressant side effects. The most benign I ever had that still worked. So the most benign I had was, what was it, valdoxin. It's got a bit of a melatonin component, but it's also an antidepressant. It did nothing for my depression, but I think maybe, hang on, so I think at first it did help with some of the sleep with the melatonin component, but that wore off, and it didn't really do anything as an antidepressant, and so it didn't really have side effects, because it didn't do anything at all, really. But so out of the ones that maybe did help my mood, citalopram was the one that I got the least side effects to, or the most benign, because what that one was doing was destroying my appetite, and because I'd always been low appetite, I didn't really notice until it got really bad and I couldn't eat anymore. And then when I did come off it, suddenly I had an appetite. And now I eat a lot more. And it's, interesting when you find out that a medication has been doing something like that to you. Anyway, so where was I going with that? Yeah, no, I've got a history of bad reactions. And I think mirtazapine is sort of up there as one of the worst. So I think Cymbalta might have been the one that made me shaky and I think messed with my head because I didn't think, oh gee, maybe shaky is not a good thing. I was just like, oh, okay, and went about my day. And then I've had another one, I forget what it was, that also made me drowsy, and that was one that made me quit working at the time. I had a part-time job, and it's probably the most hours I've ever managed to do in my life, and I couldn't do it anymore because of that medication. I was too drowsy, I couldn't concentrate. And I think this was that, but worse, because I was just in bed. Never mind not concentrating, I wouldn't even have made it to work to even try to concentrate on this stuff. Because this was such an extreme reaction, it's helped me look back at that past period of time where I was trying different medications and having all these bad reactions. It sort of validates for me that those reactions were real, because, so much time has passed and I sort of, after a while, begin to doubt myself, like, oh, maybe I was giving up on those medications too quickly. And I know maybe a year or two back, I tried going back on citalopram and also tried escitalopram. And those didn't go well either. And I think I tried them because of the same thing, where I'm like, maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I'm giving up too easily. Maybe I'm overreacting. But now I've had this, and I'm like, I'm not overreacting. That was a real thing. And it's really helped me, just view that as I had a real reaction. So, I don't know, I think I mentioned in that psychiatry video that I was a bit unsure whether or not he believed me in terms of things like schizoid and dissociation, like he was sort of asking some questions about that, and I think there was a hint of doubt, because, a kid comes in and, well, I'm not really a kid, but people think I'm a kid sometimes, so, you get a patient come in and they're like, oh yeah, I have this, and they've maybe been on Dr. Google and diagnosed themselves with a bunch of stuff, especially the younger kids on TikTok who, pick up Tourette's and think they have Tourette's. That's a thing that happens. And so I can understand a medical professional or a mental health professional, me coming in saying, hey, here's a bunch of things that I've noticed, and I can understand why they'd be skeptical, and I did feel that maybe he had a bit of that view. So I was a little bit bracing myself, calling a psychiatry practice. He did say okay, we're going to have an appointment in 3 weeks' time, but if you need to before that, so, if something happens, if it doesn't go well, you can call the reception early, don't wait. So, I called today, and I was a little bit I got through, and they're like, okay, we'll get him to give you a call back. And while I was waiting, I was a little bit I hope he takes me seriously, and if he doesn't, I'm going to just say I'm not taking any more of this stuff, because that was a real reaction. So I was bracing myself for that. But when he did call me, actually, he's like, okay. And, I described some of the things. I didn't go into as much detail as I have in this video, because, it's a phone call, and, trying to just convey the information as quickly as possible, because I'm aware that he's got a job to do. I guess I'm part of his job, but, I'm paying, when I go, I pay for the specific sessions, and I always kind of feel bad about taking up extra time, even though, they have a sort of duty of care to me once I become one of their patients, but whatever. I was just conscious of taking up too much time, and I know I'm waffling. I can waffle on YouTube. I won't waffle on the phone too much. Anyway, got the main points across. I'm this is up there as one of the worst reactions I've had, and he sort of, was like, okay. And instead of telling me to like try it again or try something different or whatever, what we're gonna do, what he suggested, is we can get a blood test done to find out if I'm a slow metabolizer. Because he was saying something like some people take 5 times as long as the average to process these medications, and maybe I'm one of them. And so I was actually expecting the paperwork to come through today, but it hasn't. So if it doesn't come through tomorrow, I guess I'll chase it up then. But yeah, he's going to order this blood test, and I don't know which blood test it is. I'm waiting for the paperwork, but I suspect it's probably a pharmacogenomic test, so like a genetic test to check whether I have certain mutations that are linked to bad outcomes with certain medications. And if that comes back positive, we might finally have an answer for at least why I'm not reacting well to these medications, and that'll be interesting. And also additionally validating, like, I've had this experience and been like, okay, this is a real thing I'm experiencing. It's a bit like with dissociation. I sort of, when it went away, I was like, I've grown out of that. But when it came back, I was like, oh, this is a real thing. Because I'm older now, I'm not in my teens or 20s, I'm not going through the whole identity crisis, like trying to find my way. I've settled into that depressed 30-year-old kind of, in your 30s, like, shit, this is my life. And so, when all that dissociation stuff came back for me, I'm like, okay, that's a real thing I'm experiencing. So, having this reaction to the medication, okay, that's a real thing I'm experiencing. But if this test comes back and says, yes, you're a slow metabolizer and certain drugs are no good for you, or, you have to be more careful with certain medications, that'll be interesting and validating, and it'll be like, I'm not just overreacting, it's actually something biological. And it would be a huge relief if that came through. Now, I don't know if it's going to actually find a way to help me, positively. As far as I know, it's just to say that I can't have certain medications, but I guess it depends on which test it actually is. I think I know which test it is, and if so, as I understand it, it'll just rule out drugs. I'm not sure if there is any test that can say this one is going to be better for you. I have participated in like a study where I had to spit into a tube and send it off to some researchers, and that was part of a study to try and like discover this exact thing, like whether your genetics have an influence on how antidepressants affect you. I did do that a few years back, and every now and then they send a follow-up questionnaire, or they want to ask a few more questions, and I fill them out as they come in. But yeah, so it'd be interesting to see the results of this test. I think it takes a week or so to come back, but I've got to get the paperwork first before I can actually walk in there. And if that comes through, well, that'll be interesting. And I think the reason that I haven't done this test in the past, there are 2 possible reasons. It could be one or the other, or it could be both. I think it might be a relatively new test, at least in Australia in terms of being offered. And the other thing is, as if it's the one that I'm thinking of, it doesn't seem to be covered by Medicare, so it's going to cost me like $200. But hey, I would rather spend the money and find out than keep doing this trial and error, horrible side effect game with medications. I would rather just pay the money, find out, and hopefully get the answers. If it comes back negative and I don't have these mutations that do that, or whatever it's looking for, that's going to be a little bit frustrating, but at least we can rule out one more issue that it could be and keep looking. But yeah, no, it would be interesting to see, and I hope something comes back, because I've done a lot of blood tests to check various things and nothing ever shows. So like, liver function, I've done some thyroid blood tests, and I don't even remember what all the tests that I've done. Every now and then, iron, every now and then, what else is there? I keep forgetting. Vitamin D maybe is the other one. It'd be interesting to see if something finally comes back positive and I can have some answers, and then, I guess that would go on my medical record, and then in the future, when someone's not taking me seriously, I can be like, look, I did this test, and it says, don't give me that poison. Anyway, so that's the basic kind of what's going on with me. I'm doing so much better not being on that medication, and the contrast is just incredible. Like, yeah, I could not live on that sort of in that sedated zombie kind of mode. And it's kind of funny that I was like out of it but also hungry, because that's how the zombie apocalypse starts. You get you know, zoned out, like, but I want to eat everything. That's the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. It could have been me. Anyway, so I guess if I've missed anything, I'll probably put something in the comments or put something in the community tab. So, you know, every now and then check my community tab. In the meantime, I'll wrap up this video and thank the sect on screen, Solascribe Chronicler. I've sent that postcard and hopefully it doesn't take too long. And then it's February, so wow, the month is almost up. Yeah, thank you to my Patreon cult, also my t-shirt cult, and I can actually function again, so I might make some videos. Whereas at the end of that psychiatry video, I was a bit like, I might not be able to make videos if I keep going on this and just can't function. So I'm glad that I didn't stay on that, because it was really bad. It was horrible living like that, and yeah, I can't do it. I can't stay on something like that for weeks and hope that it's going to get better. I did that back when I was with my old psychiatrist. We went through so many medications. You have to wait a few weeks, and it was just, there were some I had to immediately stop. There were others we tried, and then it just wouldn't, the side effects wouldn't go away. And then there were others where I started on the absolute smallest dose possible and then tried to gradually build it up. But there was always a point where it's like, now the side effects kick in, and now it's all over. You can't do it. So yeah, hopefully this time I'll get some answers. You know, that was one of my hopes in seeing a psychiatrist again, because I'm aware time passes, you know, science progresses, maybe there's something else, who knows, maybe we'll get some answers this time, and I don't know. It might not be good answers, but at least answers explain stuff. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated, and that's all for now. Bye.